right, here we are. Hail and well met. Can you all hear me? This is the big mechanical test. I hope somebody in the chat can hear me. Ah, ah, ah. Nobody's saying anything. Anyway, I'm Eric Scott DeVee, the DM of the forthcoming 5th edition Abomination Vaults adventure. And these are two of my players, Ben and Fable. Uh, and the idea of this is it's kind of a chill little hangout where we talk about the adventure, the characters, my players, get to know each other and establish some understanding and some ground rules and, get everything going. Before I get to them, I'm going to tell you about our sponsors, which you can see down below on the screen. We have Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, an action adventure RPG game on all sorts of devices, although I think they discontinued Switch functionality, so maybe not that one, where you take characters from all across the realms, various source books, novels, and games, and bring them all together on a grand adventure featuring numerous characters from authors you've seen on the screen, such as Aaron M. Evans with Cecilia and Havilar and Mahen from the Brimstone Angel saga. Your favorites like Drizzt and Brunor and Caddy Bree, and a bunch of characters that you will see on streams as well. So check that out. Also, we have two dice partners. Norse Foundry specializes in making metal dice, which it really feels like you're swinging a metal weapon and crunching into armor really hard. Please use a dice tray if you're going to roll it on the table, because it will damage your table, and if you drop it on the ground, it will damage your foot. So be very careful with those, but they are great dice. You can get a discount using their code down there. And also Phoenix Dice, which is named after the legendary creature that rises from the ashes. It is they are entirely recycled materials. They use stuff. They're always trying new materials and such, so go check out and see what they got going on. And yeah, it's also good for necromancers, reduce, reuse, reanimate, etc. So those are our sponsors. Also, if you're here from Idle Champions, exclamation point code will get you the code for this week. I have codes for every week except one random week in October, but I'm working on that. So with all that said, I will introduce you to two of our wonderful players who are going to be on this stream for the next couple of months, and they are Ben and Fable. And I think let's start with Ben, because Ben, you probably recognize, he's been on a couple of streams before. Tell us about yourself, Ben, how you came to be involved in Dungeon Scrawlers here, and who were you playing in the game?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Benjamin Williams. I work in the video game industry at Xbox. So I'm a nerd during the day, a nerd at night, a nerd in my sleep, a nerd everywhere I go. But even bigger than me is actually this person right here, Eric Scott DeBee, who popped my D&D cherry lo these many years ago. He was my very first DM, and I've been anytime he says I got a game, I say yes, sir. Let's go. I'm into it.
I introduced him with 4th edition, everybody. So,
Mhm.
before you give me too many accolades, just keep that in mind. Okay.
What? What? It's okay.
I
Like it's
see.
it's
See, this
D
is
and
what I
D,
did.
Final Fantasy. You love the first version that you play, and that's okay. It's
Totally
okay.
fine. Totally
I
fine.
also love fifth edition. We can like multiple things. We don't have to fight.
Tell us about this character that you're playing, Ben.
Well, so I am playing Ezren, a as Eric described it to me when reaching out and asked if I wanted to play. It was like, well, he's kind of like a snotty silver fox wizard, and I was like, I feel attacked right now. Why are you selecting me to play this character?
Oh
What is this
yeah.
mirror you're holding up? Please put it down. Not that I'm a wizard, but just no. It was. I'm actually really excited about this character. Even though I don't know as much about the Pathfinder lore, just everything about this character, even just the rough sketch of this character's background, um, sort of like with his family history, basically like RPG version of a midlife crisis. I'm now a wizard. I'm just sort of like, I was like, there's so much juicy bits to work with there. I already have like sort of like his opinions on deities, his opinions on like for like in the literally in the shower this morning, I was like, it's like I think that he would have way too many questions about sort of like whether or not liches feel physical pain and or pleasure, and would talk at length about it because he's just that kind of guy.
This is going to be
Let
great.
you decide if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a
Perfect.
yeah,
Perfect.
exactly.
All right. Fable, my other lovely guest this evening. Welcome. Tell us a little about yourself, what brought you to the channel, and about this character that you're playing. Uh-oh. We can't hear you, Fable. Tech is a thing. And sometimes it is a malevolent thing.
So funny. We could hear Fable before.
Yeah, maybe,
What happened when you pressed the stream button, Eric? What did you do?
I
It's
did
clearly
I
your
did
fault.
nothing. I did nothing. Maybe maybe it muted Fable's microphone or something. Wait, wait.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a voice.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that one should be
Hey,
fine.
Aha! There
oh,
we go.
There we go.
hey,
Hey,
all
hey,
right.
that's part of this too. Is working out the mechanical kinks and just making sure it all
Hmm.
works. Fable,
Also, that
welcome.
was definitely a late night radio announcer. Like, all right, hello.
Fable has such a good voice. Oh my god.
I know.
I appreciate it. Well, hello everybody. My name is Fable, she, they. I am a story and a purveyor thereof. I am a writer. I've been into D&D and Pathfinder for most of my life now. Uh, I am the director of story of one of the largest live action role plays in the state of Texas, Dystopia Rising, Texas. I was introduced to the channel by a friend that you may have seen on here before, Jen, and we met through Dystopia Rising and have been otherwise than otherwise acquainted. Then I came in, watched the stream event, and have been on and off parts of it for a while. This is my first time on the screen itself, uh, but
Welcome.
I will be playing Kyra. Uh, Kyra is a cleric of Saren Ray and one of our Pathfinder iconics. She is the one that you see whenever you click on the cleric page and see the golden clad priestess with scimitar at side. I, when given the swath of characters that would be available for us, she immediately drew me for several reasons. One of which is I love playing a very like religious character in a space of like turmoil. Uh, there's a lot of in the space in the mind ways to like chew on the scene and like expose like different parts and depths and intricacies of a character when you're looking at a problem and then have to also put on the layers of like, so how do I feel about this faithfully though? What does this mean as much of it as is a trial and everything? Uh, so I love playing and throwing in that kind of level and layers to character development. Um, and clerics are just badass.
It's
Clerics are
true.
just badass.
It's
They
true.
just can heal. But that's
5e
not what they
clerics
do.
especially are very, very potent. So,
Mhm. And digging into digging into her backstory and everything, I saw more and more things that I like related to or felt like that I could really pull to the surface and see how those conflicts. I feel like a lot of times the best way that you can show like the best sort of character-based storytelling is the things that they is their moments of weakness is the things that they don't really the difference between the face that they put into the world and then the person in them that comes out in moments of stress and distress, um,
totally.
and uh, it is the fire that makes the steel shine. So I am excited to see what kind of situations we get into and how much I can actually play with that into the world.
Oh, I'm getting fired up about this. That's not a sun pun. That's just, yeah. Anyway, all right. Very good. Very good. Oh, all right. So, let me mention a little thing about the game. So, Abomination Vaults is a famous, infamous, popular Pathfinder adventure path. Paizo has released a 5th edition conversion of it onto the DM's guide, onto the DM's Guild, sorry. And you can get there by typing in exclamation point AV5E. I think that's what I set it to. Let me just make sure that works. Yeah, that's right. You can also type in AVPF and it will get you to the Pathfinder version if that's your poison. Either way, it is a great adventure path and I'm really looking forward to running it. You may have noticed that these are not OCs. These are iconic characters from the Pathfinder setting, from Galarian. Now, the reasoning behind that is multifarious, but I'm going to go through it real briefly. One, we got all the art. It's right there. I could just use it. Two, I think as long as Paizo has been making Pathfinder material, they created these iconic characters to be their sample characters in their books. Like, when you read that passage, which is a sample of an RPG session, they're like, Mauriziel's character does this. Ezren's character frowns in disapproval and then rolls this die to make an Arcana check, right? They're the sample characters, the examples of how the game works. And obviously they have that great Wayne Reynolds art, which was so iconic to the Pathfinder game system and history. And as they went along and they kept introducing more iconics to represent, samples of different character classes, the audience was like, we want to know more about these people. Like, we want them to be like signature characters like you might find in the Forgotten Realms or in Dragonlance or in another setting like this. And so Paizo said, bet, let's do it. And so there's a whole slew of comic books. There are novels. There are also video games where these characters will show up. Kingmaker, Wrath of the Righteous both have characters who might show up in these games. You never know. And it's been this very interesting expansion of these characters. But it comes down from I think that character looks cool, and I want to play that character in the game. That's the fundamental purpose of the characters. And so that is the experience that we're going for in this game, right? Like, I showed, Ben had never, it didn't really know anything about Ezren or about Galarian at all. And I'm like, I think you should play this character for 3 reasons. And then Ben got to go down a rabbit hole and come up with however much information he wanted and do his own spin on the character. Same thing with Fable, although I think Fable knows Galarian a little bit better. What did you say, Ben? I talked over you. Sorry.
Apologize. I was saying, like, which doesn't remind you at all of the first game that we played together in the Forgotten Realms at all, does it?
I did produce pre-made characters for them, but they're very blank self-insert, like you can project whatever you want onto those characters. These characters have some backstory and personality established about them, but I want to encourage the players to take them in a unique direction. The framing for this campaign is that this is not literally canon. This is someone telling a story about the Abomination Vaults and exaggerating the hell out of it. Okay, so I would like you to go your own direction, come up with your own thing for your characters. And that is what I'm going to ask you about next. So we'll start with Fable this time. Fable, what you mentioned a little bit about what drew Kyra to you and why you were so interested in the religious aspect. What kind of, if you had to give me like 1 to 3 signature things that you want to like plot beats, characterization moments that you want to bring forward for your performance, what would they be?
Well, so one of the first things that comes to mind is there is a there is a task that a healer has in any team, in any role as a support character. But one of the things that is pretty particularly stated about Kyra that I found to be an interesting point of conflict is that there are two sort of different uh, directions, I'd say, of thought of being a devout of Sarenrae. There are those who are very firmly about we should redeem everybody that we can, and they're often diplomats and erudite individuals who are primarily good at finding the core of a problem and talking it through. And all followers of Sarenrae should, in some form or fashion, do that. And then there's the other side of them, which are the reason that Sarenrae has the sacred weapon of the scimitar. There comes a point where in which the best thing you can do for a truly evil creature is make sure that it can't hurt anybody else. And they do so trying to make sure that there's a minimal amount of suffering and the like of that. It's a very noble goal and intention, and it's said that Kyra is certainly the latter. So looking at clerics a lot of the time, and especially what it sort of leans towards Kyra to be in the shape of like a light domain cleric, you get these points of seeing that destruction, absolute and immediate, feels is part of the way that she would have to handle things, talk things through on one side. But we are also working in a thing where she's only got so many spell slots. You've still got to save your friends, take care of people, and having a group can put an odd strain on the concept of that resource of uh, working with the thought of others, keeping like those close to you in mind, working as a team, when you also have such a rigid way of approaching a problem that it should go attempt at redeem, like understand, attempt to redeem, destroy if necessary. And what happens when you don't have as much that you could have give if you jumped the gun,
Mm,
or if you spent so much time trying to keep your friends up.
mm.
Now you don't have that spell to later on throw a fireball at something. The So that sort of conflict within the self of like when you have a uh, when you have a lens that you are already seeing the world through, other people can add to that, but sometimes what they add is a complication. And uh, hashing that out as someone who's inherently quite reasonable does not make her immune to being frustrated uh, at
Nice,
how
nice.
other people may see the world.
Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, that's gonna be really interesting. Walking that dividing line that is divided by the edge of a scimitar between
Hmm.
diplomacy, compassion, and putting down the evil. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think this campaign is going to offer a lot of opportunities for both kinds of play, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it manifests. All right, Ben, Ezrin, what are you? What are we in store for your portrayal of Ezrin?
Not because I think it's intent, not because I want to be that person in the group, but I can't help but feel like Fable, you and I are gonna clash initially anyway, just based on Ezrin's backstory, but also because of his like so as someone who is also in their 40s and like his backstory, I see him as sort of learning that lesson that I think a lot of people learn at this stage or later in their life, where they learn not to care so much about what others think of them, while also understanding that to be seen and understood for who you actually are as opposed to who you are like trying to be or trying to be for other people is also so incredibly valuable. So it's this sort of I don't know if duality is the right way to say it, but it's this sort of thing of like not caring what other people think and doing whatever you want while still being kind and reasonable, but still basically being like, what, this is me. Like, if you don't like it, well, that's fine. Maybe we're just not compatible. Maybe we're not meant to be friends. I don't have to be friends with everyone. But at the same time, keenly desiring people to accept him for exactly who he is. So, like, sort of not being willing to compromise, but also like being on the lookout for people who are like, I like you for you. I like you are like my sort of like on my wavelength. Let's be on that wavelength together. It's sort of like a tension between those two things, right? And especially for him, sort of being part of the way that he's learned that lesson is through being disenchanted with sort of like religious institutions and like divine things like that. He definitely is going to have opinions about those things, but like not in a trying to convince anyone else that they're wrong, but in a sort of like, if someone sort of says things, it's like, well, obviously it's like this because reasons. He'll be like, is it? Let's talk about that. Like,
Yeah, it was an accident of scheduling that Fable and Ben ended up on the same day, but their characters definitely have this kind of like tension point between them. In the fiction, Ezren and Kyra are great friends because Ezren is neutral good and Kyra is lawful good. Basically, or no, she's also neutral good. They're both neutral good. They both like have this general outlook on the world that you should, try and help people and be compassionate and do the best you can. But the religion thing is so different. They have such different views because Ezrin's life has been scorched by religion, and Kira's life has been brightened by religion, right? Being close to the sun has helped Kyra, and it has harmed Ezren, and so that's an interesting point of tension between them. And yeah, I was asking my friends at Paizo about Ezrin. It says he's listed as an atheist, which is a really interesting thing to be in a world where the gods exist and are real entities. And I said, what does that mean exactly? And they said, well, it's not that he doesn't think the gods exist. It's just that he doesn't worship them or care about them really in any way. Like the gods aren't significant to him, and he doesn't rely on them for anything. He is he is about the triumph of the personal of humanity and human will, right? Of
yeah.
mortals over divine power. Gods are just basically extremely powerful entities to him, not worthy of worship, if you will. Ben, you had something. You raised your hand.
Sorry, I was literally thinking again, like D&D shower thoughts. We all have them. That's normal.
No, that's totally normal.
Uh, yeah, I was thinking about that this morning where I could see him going on some sort of like long, sort of like logical argument about sort of like, well, liches are also incredibly powerful immortal beings that can like grant power. Why aren't we worshiping them? I mean, they're bad, and so therefore you shouldn't worship them because he's still a good person. But ultimately, like, why are we not questioning like the motives of these beings? And Fable, I wanted to like key into something you said originally when you were talking about wanting to explore like what like these ideas of faith like in these worlds. Like that is a thing that I not only am fascinated by just as a player, but then would I think also be incredibly fascinated by like as Ezrin interacting with your character. It's like, what do you mean faith? Like the gods are there. They tell you what to do. Like what like you either follow the rules or you don't. What is this faith thing? Like what is this sort of like what? Like what's the struggle? You either do it or you don't, like sort of a thing. And like I would love to actually hear your thoughts as a player of sort of like to you, what is that sort of exploration of faith in this world where it's like, well, we all know the gods exist. It's not that we need to have faith that they exist. So how does faith play a role in the story for you?
So, in terms of like having faithful characters in a place where it's not a question of whether or not the gods exist, I like in framing in the idea of if you know all the gods exist, if you are faithful to one, why aren't you faithful to all of them? And it's
Mm,
less this concept necessarily of acknowledgement of presence or existence, but more the concept of dedication and piety. Do look to go off of what you had said. It's this idea of like if they are or are not to be worshipped, in that sort of Boolean concept of yes or no, that I feel most like players, like most characters, most people, honestly, in that world, there are folks who have, like wizards might, such a strong control of the weave. In fact, to go into wizards specifically, you have people who have spent their whole lives studying and how to control the weave, to cast spells. But there's also Nethys, the god of magic. And are you not faithful to him that his rules work the same way? Are you not doing these actions of dedication by learning which you are wont to do? And the idea that in some form or fashion, you will be doing a dedication. Do you do so willingly or unwillingly? Is it your witting end to serve something that you believe it aligns with your ideals and something that you feel is doing good upon the world? Or will you just do as you want to do, and the gods will push buttons, take power, and do what they are want to do? They are forces, but they are not unthinking forces. So in a decision to dedicate, it is a decision to take that autonomy. And I think that's where some of the best like tension comes in between the like their Boolean answers. And being so diametrically opposed, they come from the exact same place of, no, it's because I'm choosing to do it. Uh, and they just arrived at the same conclusion through different routes. Uh, and that bears in some of the conflict and complication there.
Yeah, Eric, I'm gonna tell you right now, like you may need to, you may need to get Fable and I off of in character debates on theology that are gonna take up too much of the stream.
Look, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say you get inspiration for having this debate, and then we're gonna move on. Like that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say you get inspiration, we fade to black, and then we're on to the next scene.
They continue talking for hours into the night. So how do the rest of you feel as the two of them go off into, at this point,
They
who knows
continue
how many
talking,
days?
and then Amiri breaks something. Mariziel is asleep. Yep. And
Eric
Sela
says
is
if you
like,
don't stop, Eric's like if you don't stop talking, you're not gonna get the benefits of a long rest. And we're like, okay, fine.
Fine.
okay. So I will tell you about this this cool mechanical thing because, like I said, this is the 5th edition version of this adventure path. Pathfinder 2e, which is where you get it's the core of what Abomination Vaults is for, is very different from 5e. So there's a certain amount of overlap and a certain amount of difference. The mechanics are just fundamentally different. But there's a mechanic in Pathfinder 2e that I really, really like, and that's focus abilities. Now, not everyone has a focus ability in Pathfinder. It's largely a spell that you would gain by taking a feat that gives you this focus ability. And you have a limited pool of focus points that you can spend to activate the ability. I have transplanted something like that into our campaign where you can spend inspiration to activate your focus ability. Ezren has a particular focus ability, which, well, Ben, you've read the character sheet. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I did. I actually specifically went looking for it and couldn't find it. I'm sorry.
That's fine. So his focus ability is called Hand of the Apprentice, which sounds really boring, but what it is he hurls his magic implement, which is his trademark serpent-headed staff, which whirls out and smashes into an enemy, doing a bunch of damage, and then reappears back in his hand. So it's like a ranged true strike, is what it basically is.
Oh, now I see it.
Yeah. And then Kyra has a focus spell as well, and you might
Mhm.
expect hers to be a healing related thing, but it's not, is it?
It is not. Uh, of Kira's focus ability is Saren Ray's Light. Uh, it's a bonus action that lets her call upon the blazing heat of the sun and imbue it into a weapon, not necessarily hers, but a weapon, to cause it to deal an extra D8 radiant damage for a full minute. Uh, so definitely that idea of like uh, the the sun shines on all, and for some it turns them to ash.
Right. And
Er,
you don't necessarily use this on your own weapon. You could, in theory, use it
Mhm.
on someone else's weapon. So that's interesting. Might
Mhm.
we see a by our powers combined situation at some point in the game? Who can say?
I was like, you saw my face, Eric. You knew exactly what my little min-maxer heart went to.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so I want to encourage you to, lean into experimenting with those things. The Gray Falcon, or Falcon Gray, brought up a very good point, which in Pathfinder, when you use focus abilities, it costs you a focus point, and you can take the focus action to restore your focus so that you can use your ability again. It's a little harder in our game because 5e is balanced differently. You have to do something that is worthy of getting inspiration. However, I have recently been doing this, and I did this with the last campaign that I ran on this channel, where if you roll a 1 on an attack roll or a saving throw, you have a couple of choices. You fail. First of all, you fail. Okay, it's an automatic failure. But if something interesting and potentially detrimental happens to you, you gain inspiration. If you don't want something detrimental or interesting to happen, you just want to fail, someone else on in the group gains inspiration, and you get to choose who that is. So that's the little bit of the fail forward mechanic that I've introduced into the game. So focus works a little bit differently in the game because you can think of inspiration as a source of those focus abilities. You can also use inspiration for what it is originally for, which is to re-roll a d20 that you don't like the result of. So I see you're giving me blank stares. So let me explain what something interesting or potentially detrimental to you means. So if Ezren, for instance, were to say, I forgot that I'm a wizard, so I'm just going to swing my staff at somebody, whoop, 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 and rolls a 1, I can say, all right, does something interesting happen? At which point Ben can say, yes, and then he gains inspiration, and either he describes something interesting that happens, or I describe something interesting that happens. It could be either way. If you describe something interesting happening, it has to be detrimental to you. Like Ezrin swings his staff and it slips out of his hands and goes flying across the room, for instance. Right. Or Ezrin slips and falls over and is now prone, and that's the end of his turn. Right. If it's me, I can say something like, the ground starts shaking, and I need everybody to roll an acrobatics check, or enemy reinforcements show up, or you miss the enemy and strike a window which breaks open and sunlight streams through, surprising the things that have light vulnerability, that kind of thing, right? If you accept if you accept an interesting thing happening, you gain the inspiration. But if you're like, no, 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 Eric, I think you're gonna use this opportunity to make my life miserable. I'm gonna not have something interesting happen. Then you can say, I miss, and Kyra gains inspiration, right? So,
I do really love that in the shape of like the passing of inspiration gives this, like being able to pass it to someone else gives this idea of like your failure, while you didn't do the thing that you were trying to do, opens up an opportunity for someone else and gives that sort of Avengers team fight moment where watching somebody get rebuffed, that still takes that arm out of play. It leaves openings. They're still fighting more than one person, and it really puts that into a mechanic in an interesting way.
Yeah, that's the idea anyway.
Yeah.
I just got stuck on the fact that you thought that I would forget I was a wizard and hit something when you gave me the True Strike spell. In which case, I would not only hit something with my staff, and I would remember that I was a wizard and cast that out while I was doing it. But I digress.
Well, there are always situations, my
I
friend,
know. I know.
and
I tease.
you might encounter one. Who can say for sure?
He
Hey,
says,
some
alluding to
things
the first
really
thing.
some things really don't like magic, and we're just a bunch of casters. So,
Well, we'll meet more of the team next week, and they aren't casters.
mhm.
But let's talk a little bit about the rest of the team. Now, Ben has been very busy with a number of things and isn't quite as connected with everyone else yet. But Fable has some insights, and
Mhm.
so Fable, since Gabrielle is in the chat, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about Kyra's companion, Mariziel, and how you anticipate that kind of, like how you're looking at it going into the game.
So, for those of you who are familiar with the lore, you would note that Mauricio and Kira are married. They are wives later on in the story. But for the purposes of it, and just so some of this fun can happen on screen, uh, we are choosing to start the relationship, or the place that we're in the relationship is before the proper marriage, after they've noted that there are feelings for each other. Uh, Looping to tie back into a previous point of a thing of character contention that I think will be interesting. It's kind of hard to be a healer when you have a very clear preference for one person in the group. Uh,
Yeah.
she, uh, Mauriziel is a, hmm, she is a daggers forward type woman, which, when paired with somebody who is redemption first, then yes, daggers. Uh, I
Mauriziel has
imagine
never encountered a problem that cannot be solved with a dagger one way or another.
correct. So there are certain problems that can be fixed with hammers that shouldn't have been fixed with hammers, but they're not a problem anymore. The and the shape of the figuring out uh, in dealing with that point of contention of conflict while still dealing with the honey glow of being very attracted and very caring about this uh, like very caring about an individual who you also at times, and as it is with many just normal relationships, your problem solving methods, while they will eventually meet at some point, uh, don't align initially. So getting that beat uh, of care and communication, while still learning and feeling out each other and all this is and is what all this is and could be. It's also important to note that Mauricio is an elf and a forlorn, and Kira is a human. And there are some differences in cultural aspects, lifespans, and the like that are questions that maybe haven't been asked yet. Who knows
Yeah.
if they've been brought up to each other, and the full breadth of that thought sunk in, if this is to mean something more. And while it's one of those shapes of, it's better when you know where this ends, in the ideal of them ended up being married, because up to the point before, you get to stumble through that, you get to watch their sort of stumble through that first part of a relationship, knowing where it's going to get up eventually. But until then, you get to have these spots of all those questions that happened at the start, all of those difficulties in it, and the personal internal conflicts, and then likely uh, with likely with each other, primarily in the concept of uh, I see the biggest the biggest sort of not quite butting of heads in their problem solving methods. Oh,
Excellent.
grabs drag handles like we can talk first. That might be a good idea, actually.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, there's going to be a little bit of religious stuff between the two of them as well, because Maurizio has her
Correct.
own goddess, Callistria, who is very different from Sarenrae and has very different expectations of her followers. So
Quite a
that's gonna be an
bit.
interesting thing that I'm going to ask Gabrielle about next week when she's on talking about Maurizio. She mentioned in the chat, Maurizio is essentially a damage magnet, so like Kira's gonna have her work cut out for her.
Yeah, fair enough.
And if
Also,
you read the comics, though, those are the circumstances of their first kiss, where Kira is getting
mhm.
really hurt. Or no, Maurizio's getting really hurt, and Kira's like, "Well, I don't like anybody being hurt, but I especially don't like seeing you hurt." And she's just adorably
Yeah.
awkward about it, and Maurizio's just like, "Let's kiss,
Oh
it's
yeah,
fine."
that's really funny. This is great, actually.
So
Um,
yeah,
I I do really love that dynamic in of Callistria and her like vengeance-based domain, and uh Saren Ray in Redemption, and having to be like, well, so we've been wronged, and having these diametrically different uh responses, and then looking at each other about it, it's like, okay, no, explain yourself. This might be a problem. What the fuck do you mean?
yeah, yeah. We might see that that scene get represented again somehow, or
Hmm.
alternatively, if Kira ever goes down, not in a good way, in the adventure, Maurizio might have a very strong reaction in a very different direction. So
Hmm.
I like building in the
I'm
drama. I'm very pleased about this. Okay, so I have one more question for Ben. Uh, if the chat has any questions you want to ask us about anything we've discussed or about the game in general, I'm sure I've glossed over some things, but we'd be happy to answer some questions. We were only planning to go until like 7 p.m. Pacific time, which is like 17 minutes from now. So get those questions in. My question for Ben is: so you've been reading some of the lore. And again, I'm not expecting you to be an expert or anything, and I want you to interpret it your own way and go your own direction. Ezren is a member of the Pathfinder Society in Galarian, in world, the way that his companions are not necessarily. They are other characters who are dealing with other stuff within the world, but Ezren is a card carrying, or in this case, compass carrying member of this adventurers guild, essentially, that goes and surveys dungeons, looks for potential trouble, solves problems, brings teams to investigate dungeons and things like that. Do you have any plans to bring that into it in some way, or lean into that, or is this like a new thing that I'm just suggesting to you, and now your brain is going wild, and you're going to have to do some more shower thinking?
Oh, Eric, how little faith you have in me.
I have every faith in you, which is why I didn't prepare you with this question. I just asked it. So,
I think the Pathfinder Society makes perfect sense for him because in the way that he is so used to structure and guidance and principles in a religious context, just because he was like, this religion sucks, I'm out, doesn't mean that his brain isn't still just predisposed to like, so what new structure am I going to plug myself into? Right? Like it is like any of us who have had that experience in real life where we're like, this religion is no longer serving my life and happiness. What do? we go find another structure, often to like apply ourselves to, and eventually maybe learn the lesson. It's like maybe you can make your own path. Maybe you don't need someone else to tell you how to do this thing called life. And so, considering even though he's in his 40s, this is his first time basically like out of the nest. It's the first time that he's having to think for himself. So, I see him being quite devoted to the Pathfinder Society because it honestly reduces some of the emotional processing capacity that he has to do for himself, and it gives him something to slot into that still aligns with his new vision for like how he wants to have an impact on the world. Like I sort of see it as him sort of like he's like, I want to like, it satisfies his curiosity, it satisfies his desire to learn, his necessity to self-educate because of rejection from other people, to like give back to the world by sort of like, you know, like let's neutralize this like this negativity. It's just like, to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, no, he's in like Flynn, he's devoted. And maybe even in a way that like, if anything ever comes up where it's like maybe the Pathfinder Society isn't, so he's like, shut up, like it's great. Like, how dare you question that? But like, you know, if that ever, but it would be, I don't know. I don't know enough about the deep lore of the Pathfinder Society to know whether or not they've got any questionable black, icky, sticky awfulness at the center of their heart. But should they do have that, it would be a very interesting character moment for him having to wrestle with that, be like, you know, and like, what does he do with that, you know?
Interesting.
I,
Interesting.
I love the dual response in my person, in the depths of like Kira, and the concept of like, if that's an issue, there's a part of like comfort in working somebody through a stressful situation, and then the other side is like, you seem awfully devoted to them, don't you? You know, this faith that you have in them,
Yeah.
strange.
I feel
Tell
like
me how that
this
feels.
this is gonna be our shtick where you're constantly like, is this faith? And I'm just like, get off my back. Kira.
God damn it, Kira, stop making me think about it. Ah!
Yeah.
I normally like thinking. Ah!
Yeah,
Well, you
no,
know,
I
it's
am
like
excited.
even people who love to like poke at existential questions, you still have to have an existential foundation that you stand on, and like it's there's a difference between looking at other people's existential foundations and having deep thoughts about it, and poking at your own existential foundation. That's a whole other animal.
No, I shake the fundament of the rest of the world, not mine. Come on.
Yeah. Well, to Eric's point, that he was a very smart, very capable, very snotty person. Snotty was the specific word that I got, and I was really uncomfortable with that. And I don't know how much
I
I want
mean,
to lean
I
into
feel like
that
that's
as
a
a
little
character.
overstating it. It's more
It
like
is,
he's just very confident in his intelligence and his learning. That's really what it is.
yeah, which
I
can be
also,
perceived
Which
as
can be
not.
perceived as snotty. Yes,
Uh-huh.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I
So,
do.
oh yeah.
I was just going to say that I do also, as you kind of alluded to, Ben, the the other just realization that Kira is 25 to 34 in the stories where these things have taken place, at least after 25. Mauricio is not a very reliable narrator for age. Uh, and so, like, at
What
least two of the
even
party
is
members.
time anyway?
Yes, at least two of the other party members are younger. One of them is much older than you, but looks younger than you. So, like, how much really? How old are you, an elf? Uh, and that just element of like, I have lived so much more life than you. You'll get over it, and just that beat of experience, and the way that sometimes like it's understanding, that a lot of times that I've seen it, at the very least, it comes from this place of understanding,
Mhm.
of like, I've been where you are, but this isn't a forever thing. you just haven't experienced enough of life. And also the other side of being gently invalidating sometimes and being like, did you don't know that this is just a chunk of your life and you'll move past it. Uh,
I love everything you're saying so much, but I think what I want to do is I want to avoid any whiff of like, you know, you kids or get off my
mhm,
lawn or like I know better than you because I'm older. Because whilst plenty of people embody that willingly and without
mhm.
question, I think it's a bit tropey in a way that I'm not personally excited about.
Mm.
For
Okay.
Ezrin, I much prefer, and I will speak. I will say that I will take this element of myself and I want to infuse it in the character, which is that when I encounter people that are younger than me and they are going through things that I'm like, yep, yep, like been there, done that, experienced that, learned that lesson, sort of a thing. I want it to be a moment of empathy and
Mm.
patience.
Mm.
I want it to be, but that doesn't mean that those younger people might still be like, stop telling me that you completely understand everything that I know. You don't know me. It's like,
Mhm.
because that is a trap you can fall into. But it's like I've met people, I've had conversations with younger people sometime where they sort of like tell me about these things, and I try and comfort them by being like, everything you're experiencing is valid and it's also right on time.
Mhm.
Like this is totally normal for like your stage of life or the specific things that you're experiencing or like whatever. And also like I can tell you that like either it gets better or this is what is likely to happen next. And like sometimes that is the intention is to be comforting. Doesn't mean it always lands that way. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might. I mean, it's totally possible that Ezra might come off as, patronizing or old fuddy duddy. Like that might happen. Through no fault of your own. And it's interesting to see how people interact and relate to one another, and that's just spontaneous that comes up in the game. So
Mhm.
yeah, we'll see.
But I do really like that. I do like that approach. Uh, and the more that we're talking about this, the more that I realize how many things that our portrayals of Ezra and Kyra are inherently aligned in. There's just like it's just enough of a degree to the left that they can't fully agree with it. So
mhm.
there's a tension there, but they're still pointed in the same direction. And it makes sense that like eventually they do become good friends. But with this being the first point, some of my better friends I was not
Yeah.
fans of when I first met them. So I am excited to feel all of that out.
Yeah, I'm looking
Nice.
forward to seeing the clashes and the reconciliations and the growth, because,
Hmm.
I mean, we're playing a game, but we're also doing a show, right? And when we're doing collaborative storytelling, we try to hit character arcs and we try to, present things about the characters evolving and learning and growing as people. And I really think we picked a very good team for this. I think like this conversation is very indicative of good things to come. I wanted to give a brief shout out to Falcon Gray, one of our new subscribers. Hey, I'm glad you joined. Welcome. We're going to be playing this game for like a couple months, I think. So, have a good time. I'm looking forward to it. I have one last mechanical thing to bring up, and then I think we'll sign off. This mechanical thing is okay. So the iconics in the Pathfinder game kind of have a set mechanical path to them, which is only sort of reflected in 5e. Like, you can only sort of build it quite the same way. Like, Fable, you were mentioning earlier that Kyra is clearly a light cleric, right? Because, sun goddess, some healing, some fire damage. Okay.
Hmm.
And the Pathfinder fiction and the Pathfinder comics and stuff, Ezrin is kind of a generalist wizard, right? In third edition terms, uh, or third edition, which is what Pathfinder was based on, and then eventually, Pathfinder 2e, um, kind of does away with schools of magic to some extent. Like, you don't have specialist wizards in 2e the same way you did in previous editions. Ezren is essentially a generalist wizard. Like, he didn't really have a specialization. So, however, these are your takes on the characters. Do you have any interesting mechanical stuff that you are looking to do with the character going forward? There's not all that much customization at first level. We're starting out at first level, brand new characters. But as you go, what are you going to do with your characters?
So I definitely was diving into the concept of light cleric. I love when a lot of that comes online because it is very much both in line with the character, but then continues on down that line of like, I can heal, but we hit 5th level. I can also fireball. This room can be not a problem. Uh, I think one of the things that I've been that isn't necessarily stated that I've been trying to figure out is that a lot of times whenever you have a cleric and you're like and you're building them out properly, they get all of these armor proficiencies. You want them to be in heavy armor. You want them to have this good AC. They're your healer. You don't want them to get knocked down. You want them to be able to tank as much of that damage that they have to take, even if they're not the dedicated tank. Uh, and I'm wondering if I want to do that. Because do you have that risk? She has the scimitar. Do we go into like dual wielding scimitars instead of taking a shield? What kind of armor is she going to wear?
Right.
The light cleric part makes just the full amount of sense to me, but I think more generally figured out by her interactions with the party and where she feels like there are points of failure. That do we need a shield? Do we need more swords?
Makes sense.
Am I seeing like the people that I care about throw themselves on the meat grinder and I feel bad for having to stand back? And just what those conversations lead into of like, does that look like higher AC? Does it look like, hey, you have 4 hit points, hang back, I got this.
Nice.
And how that'll come.
Yeah, Kyra, as we originally wrote the character sheet for first level, is basically your kind of medium armored, some dex character though. Like, she has, I think, +2 dex or something like that, which is pretty decent and fits in with medium armor pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, she could go either way, and that'll be interesting to see. And I like that idea of plugging the gaps in the rest of the party. Ben, what do you want to do with Ezren and his magic?
Yeah, I mean, like, I love playing a controller, like, but also I do it all the time. Like, it is the thing that I go to. So I'm actually curious. I really want to pull from his background, and I'm thinking about taking him as a diviner
Ah, interesting.
because one, I've never done it. I've generally avoided most divination spells because I feel like they're sort of like weird and wiggly. And as I alluded to earlier, sometimes I can't help myself, and I wanna min max and for the damage and the control and the things. And it's like
Big number,
divination,
go
like,
higher.
woo, like great. I maximize seeing the future. I don't know, but I think that with his whole past about like I'm gonna like discover the truth about my family and prove that they were innocent, and then it turns out he failed at that because they weren't. And then being on this journey of trying to be like, okay, well, if everything I knew was wrong, like now I need to discover myself. I can just sort of see him leaning into this, like, well, I'm discovering magic, but like that doesn't mean that he doesn't still desire the truth and desire sort of like visibility into the unknown and sort of not being caught by surprise again like he was before. I don't I don't know. I need to research like
Interesting.
what does a divination build look like that's like interesting, especially in a giant dungeon crawl experience. So
Well,
I
you
don't
have a
know, maybe
couple of levels to figure it out too. So,
Yeah.
great.
like,
Also,
don't feel locked into anything you said right there. Like, if you change your mind, it's totally cool. So,
Yeah, but I think it'd be cool. One, it'd be interesting for me to explore divination magic more as something I've never done as a player, but then also as like I think it does play into his backstory in an interesting way.
I think so. Also, as well, this note of, and I don't know if it works specifically the same way in 5.5, but the big hallmark of divination wizards is the portent die and being able to see the future and swap a die roll, either on one of your dies or one of the enemies. And the concept, like you mentioned, of I'm not gonna be made a fool of like that again. There's no world where I waste this much time again.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like being like having that guidance of I have to be a step ahead. And now magically even I will be is very neat. I love that so much.
I'm not a perfectionist, Fable. Please put that mirror down. I'm uncomfortable.
I
Nice,
held the mirror, you said it, but you know.
nice, nice, nice. Yeah. No, we'll have to look and see what we can do. So, all right. I think that kind of wraps up all the questions that I had. Anything else for the good of the order? What are
Not
what are
that
you,
I can.
what are you working on? Where can people find you online? Follow you? Check out your stuff, etc.
You can find me on most places as at Fable Foxtail, and a few at Watcher in the Wings, split up an underscore. I'm moving things over towards Fable Foxtail. For the actual work that I've been putting most of the stuff into, you're likely to find it in Dystopia Rising, Texas, if that's sort of in your wheelhouse, if you're nearby, or if you like traveling. Come let me tell a story for you. Not just here on this, but in person. Let me put you in a post apocalyptic wasteland and see what stories come out.
What a great offer, Ben.
Nice. You can find me almost nowhere, and that is by design. um, but that doesn't mean that I don't have like nerdy things that I like to work on. I was telling them earlier, I'm literally embroidering a cloak of many eyes right now. So hooray for that. I also have anyway, yeah, so I do a lot of costume design in my spare time right now.
Okay, I will make this
Eh,
deal with you, Ben.
what?
If you finish the robe of many eyes, I will give Ezren a robe of many eyes in the adventure.
Oh my God. Do you know how many hours of embroidery I have ahead of me? Okay.
I'm just saying,
Min
All right.
maxing.
you
Min
got a
maxing.
couple months to do it, buddy.
And as a divination wizard, that would be nice.
Also, I just want people to see it because it's really cool. All right. Thank you both. I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be really great. I want to close out by reminding people that you can and should join the Dungeon Scrollers Discord. You get there with !Discord, or there's a link down in the doobly-doo down below us. We talk about this campaign and other campaigns. We have we're partnered up with Writing About Dragons and Shit, the podcast about writing about dragons and shit with B. Dave Walters, Trevor Bettis, Aaron M. Evans, and a collection of wonderful guests. And that is a good time. If you want to talk about creative stuff, you want to talk about writing stuff, you want to indulge in some great meme game, it's all there. Come join us on the Discord. And yes, Rumpus, if he gets the robe, he does have to wear the robe on the stream in order to get the benefit in the game. That's how it works. Okay, so thank you both, and that's gonna be it. So next week we'll be talking to a couple more players of the game, and Abomination Vaults is going to kick off on the 17th. Oh, be ready. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you all very much. The end.